General Hospital teasers for the next 2 weeks, June 9th to 20th, predict that Jason Morgan will begin digging while Willow and Michael Corinthos await the judge's decision. Dante Falconeri and Harrison Chase will also face off. So let's discuss what's in store. Cody Bell will enlist Carly Spencer's assistance with a love-related proposition from June 9th to 13th. Elizabeth Baldwin will also speak with Lucas Jones about how her reunion with Lucky Spencer fell through. But it is the best decision for everyone concerned. Lucky won't be comfortable living in Port Charles indefinitely, so he'll say goodbye to Lulu Spencer, Laura Collins, and anyone else who deserves it before he leaves. Trina Robinson may detect that anything is wrong with her parents and tell Ava Jerome about it. Trina will eventually have a strategy session with Kai Taylor, who may admit to having overheard Curtis Ashford's dispute with Portia Robinson. Curtis intends to entice Jacinda into lying about Drew paying her for passion and purposefully using ketamine. With all of this in mind, Kai will need to determine what to do next. Of course, Curtis needs to find Jacinda before he can continue with his plot, so that will be his top priority in the next episodes. Felicia Scorpio will take on a new assignment. Felicia's investigative abilities suggest that she may be engaged with spy activity. Despite Michael's efforts to secure a custody agreement with Willow, Drew's low blow will devastate everything and enrage Nina Reeves. When the court resumes its session, some additional twists and turns could affect everything. Michael and Willow's custody battle will undoubtedly heat up. Ava will send an invitation to someone, so it will be intriguing to watch who she invites and what she is up to. If Ava and Christina Corinthos Davis wind up fighting over the blackmail scenario, Alexis Davis will have even more reason to be stressed about the situation. Next, Dante and Chase will have some stressful moments. Chase kept silent about Brooklyn Quartermain's teen pregnancy, so he did not inform his partner of his now adult son's existence. Although Chase clearly had no idea Giovanni Gio Palmieri was Brooklyn and Dante's real child, the fact that he maintained secrets will continue to upset Dante. The week of June 16th to 20th will see the repercussions of all the courtroom drama. When Michael and Willow learn of the judge's decision in the custody lawsuit, they may become even more hostile. Drew will continue to battle for his future with Willow, but his good guy persona will crumble as the plot progresses. Drew clearly deserves a demise, and the GH writers will eventually place him on that route. Drew disrupted Willow's clinic visit in Germany and is still hiding his passionate rendezvous with Nina, so there are bound to be some juicy truths that could derail their romance. On a brighter side, Carly Spencer will have a romantic gift for Jack Brennan as they become closer. Meanwhile, Jason will investigate Professor Henry Hank Dalton and may uncover some disturbing details concerning Jocelyn Jack's WSB gig. Will Jason discover Jocelyn's amazing secret? Regardless, Jocelyn may defy Brennan's orders and intervene if Vaughn's plan to deal with Anna Devane fails. Vaughn and Jocelyn appear to be heading for some flying sparks as the task becomes more intense, so stay tuned. General Hospital spoilers for the next 2 weeks hint at peril and high-stakes drama, so stay tuned for updates on all the exciting developments. At daybreak, Jason Morgan entered the Corinthos residence with the quiet determination of a man on a mission. The early light exposed the exhaustion etched onto his features, bags under his eyes, a stiff jaw, and racing thoughts. Sonny had contacted him late last night with distressing news. Willow and Michael's divorce and custody discussions were not going well, and there were whispers, rumors that someone had tampered with the judge's perspective, or that something or someone was looking into the case in ways that did not smell lawful. Jason could not ignore it. He needed to dig. He needed to know. He began in the judge's chambers, with years of experience directing him where to look: phone logs, visitor records, anything that didn't add up. He worked meticulously, slipping by aides, analyzing entries, and looking for irregularities. He eventually discovered it: an unlogged meeting between a known Drew associate and an aide with access to evidentiary materials. The aide's name was scribbled in the book, with no time or badge number. Obvious violation. A red flag. Jason felt a cold wave come over him. Someone was attempting to manipulate the results, with Michael and Willow's children in the center. Jason moved quickly after gathering proof. He warned Sonny and Michael, exchanged angry words with Rick Lansing regarding evidence preservation, and prepared for a confrontation. In court, Jason approached the bench, his presence like a hammer on delicate glass. He organized the records, phone conversations, meeting logs, and financial flows. He identified the aide. He mentioned Drew's associate. The courtroom trembled at the revelation. Willow, sitting with Nina, appeared stunned. Michael, pallid but determined, locked eyes with Jason in quiet appreciation. Outside, cameras flashed. Jason's interruption was the lead on celebrity gossip podcasts and daytime drama blogs. Jason exposed Drew's bribing of the judge, allowing Michael to win. They showed footage of Carrie in court. Wiley testifying, the judge astonished, and Jason stoic and immovable. Meanwhile, Willow and Michael awaited the judge's judgment. Willow had hoped for joint custody, a precarious compromise after betrayal and disaster. But the judge had new evidence. Drew's involvement could not be ignored. The judge hesitated, her gavel poised over a mound of paperwork. Everyone in the gallery leaned forward, catching their breath. Jason watched from behind, the weight of each broken promise hanging in the air. He heard the gavel fall. Michael would have primary custody. Willow fought back tears as relief and grief mingled in her chest. She gazed at Michael and their children but couldn't reach him. Something had shifted too far. Michael gave her a slight nod, fatherly and detached. It wasn't over yet, but the foundation was shaky. Wiley reveals Drew and Willow's secret, just as the ruling is made public, leaving the judge startled. YouTube.com. Then Jason found himself drawn into a more complex riddle. There were broader forces at work. Drew's involvement was aggressive and dishonest. Was he acting alone? Or had someone else been manipulating him from the shadows? Jason chose to follow the money. He tracked down bank transactions that connected Drew to shell firms owned by Nina Reeves and Ava Jerome. An unexpected relationship. Could they actually be linked together? Or did someone use their names to disguise the genuine players? He kept running into obfuscation, false leads, and dead ends. But he persisted. His inquiry brought him to the lab of Henry Dalton, a well-known researcher linked with GH's most recent experimental treatments. Rumors circulated that his name appeared in court documents and was mentioned in Port Charles Rumor as a participant in Drew's sabotage. Jason broke into Dalton's files late one night and accessed encrypted documents. He discovered notes on a black book codenamed Custody Control that included instructions for digitally forging evidence and manipulating audio snippets in court testimony. Dalton was hired as a technical specialist. His motivations are unknown, but his fingerprints were all on it. Jason revealed everything to Nina and Sonny, establishing a trap. He announced that if Dalton did not turn over the state's proof, they would reveal his involvement. Under moral and legal pressure, Dalton cracked. He HHP'd his boss, who compensated him verbally. Alexis Davis was identified as the principal conspirator. Yes, the respected attorney had planned the scheme in secrecy, expecting that Willow's custody loss would prompt Michael to leave his part in Aurora Media to her, re-establishing her career and family power. A smart and convoluted maneuver. Jason brought this fresh bombshell to court. Another twist so seismic that even the priest who married Michael and Willow might have blown the courtroom roof off. Dawn had gone to midday, and then afternoon. Tension swirled like a hurricane. Willow fell from astonishment at Alexis' betrayal. Michael stared, stunned, as Alexis denied everything. But when Jason presented bank accounts and audio logs during cross-examination, her veneer cracked. The judge, visibly affected, questioned Willow how she could move forward when the trauma was so profound. Willow stopped, her voice breaking, and Jason felt every ounce of emotion in the room, not only the facts, but the expressions of children who don't beg for divorce but live it. Jason had finished his assignment. He revealed the scheme. He preserved Michael's custody. But for what price? Willow met Jason in the hallway. Thank you. But I don't know if I can live in Port Charles now. She also blamed him for revealing the betrayal. Michael grasped her hand but did not soothe her. Jason drew a line before looking at them both. Protect them always, yet some injuries are self-inflicted. The episode ended with Jason standing in the empty courtroom, noon sun shining through stacks of evidence and echoing in seats and empty jury boxes. He whispered to himself, Port Charles only sleeps when everyone's dead. But tomorrow would bring new chaos. Willow rebuilding her life in D.C. with Drew, or possibly facing new legal appeals. Michael wary of Alexandra's influence. Sonny questioning business loyalties. Dante and Chase chasing other shadows. and Jocelyn's secret WSB mission threatening lives. Jason remained prepared, because digging never ends, and stones roll into the darkness for a reason. According to General Hospital teasers, Jason Morgan's probe into Professor Henry Hank Dalton may reveal more than he expected. Anna Devane's spidey senses are on fire when it comes to the PCU professor, so she enlisted the help of a friend. Should Jocelyn Jax worry? General Hospital spoilers remind viewers that Jason isn't the type of guy who abandons his friends, especially those as close as Anna. The grandmother may be too protective of Emma Scorpio Drake's interest in Dalton, but she has every right to be. After all, Dalton isn't just weird and cringy. He's also collaborating with Jen Sidwell, the PC public enemy #1 who is sponsoring the PCU professor's research. The WSB is also looking into Dalton, who has bad news written all over him. Jason and Anna will be investigating Dalton's work, but may Jason also unearth Jocelyn's work for the WSB? Fans could tell Jason was already wary of Joss after her Easter Island excursion. GH viewers are aware that she did not actually travel to Easter Island. Rather, she went WSB espionage boot camp, thus the program may have already created the groundwork for this scenario. If Jason comes across Joss while she's looking for information on Dalton, her WSB secret could leak into her other life. Still, if Jason learned about Joss, would she beg him to hide her secret from Carly Spencer? Will Jason keep his mouth shut? Jocelyn is an adult who can do whatever she wants, but he may believe that Jack Brennan coerced his goddaughter into this line of business. He may possibly believe Brennan has been using Carly the entire time, which he has long suspected. This will make him want to confront Brennan more than ever, but will he, even if Joss urges him not to? Port Charles was shrouded in its typical tension. Half hospital lights, half mysteries behind each door. Jason Morgan, stony-faced, jacket flung over the back of his favorite precinct chair, went through Dalton's case files with purpose. Anna Devane had approached him a few days before, sharing her concerns. Professor Henry Hank Dalton's study could be dangerous and, more importantly, illegal. Jason felt the same rush. Justice required exposing concealed truths, no matter how complicated the repercussions. He went through each note and experiment summary, Dalton's research assistant application list, the unexplained lab financing from unknown sources, and reports of Jocelyn Jack's involvement. Something didn't add up. Anna felt Dalton was linked to Jen Sidwell's financial operations, which may connect him to the black market rings underpinning the entire operation. Jason understood he needed proof, and the best chance was to catch Dalton off guard when he was already focused on the fledgling lab. The precinct phone vibrated. Anna's voice came through quietly. "Jason, any updates?" He typed a note. "Still digging. But Jocelyn has access. She is close to Dalton. We might discover more than just his studies." Anna tensed. Jason went on, "She claimed a fellowship, but different sources suggest she's a WSB operative." This tidbit raised red flags. If Jocelyn was undercover, it might complicate things. Anna responded, "Be careful. If the secret leaks, the consequences might be disastrous." Meanwhile, miles away at the WSB training site known as Easter Island, Jocelyn polished off yet another untruth. Jack Brennan had recruited her after she killed Cyrus Renault in self-defense, and since then she had been juggling code names and half-truths. CelebDirtyLaundry.com. She trained under Vaughn, suffered lie detector drills and secret coffee shop meets, always cautious to mask her tracks. She believed her cause was just, but the burden of the cover-up and moral concessions weighed hard on her. Days later, Jason and Anna accompanied Dalton to the laboratory. The professor was anticipating them, calm, with that calculated scientist's voice. Jason looked at him, his eyes narrowing. Anna took the lead. "Hank, Jen Sidwell has funded your research." "Explain," she demanded. Dalton's eyes flashed for a moment, like a shuttered window. He admitted to receiving funds, but argued that it was for basic environmental cleanup, not secret operations. Anna was not satisfied. While Dalton kept her busy with his trained calm, Jason sneaked inside the lab's storage. Hidden between lab coats and stacked boxes, he discovered a locked drawer labeled Project WSB. Inside, paperwork with Jocelyn's name, images of her working with him, cover tales for her excursions. This went beyond illegal. It was espionage in Port Charles. He took pictures with his phone, his heart racing. Later at her apartment, Jocelyn sat shaking. Gio was worried, as was Emma, and tensions were quickly fraying. whadawatch.com. She held her WSB badge, the weight of her dual existence crushing her. She said in quiet tones, "They'll come for me if they find out." Because if Jason had proof that she was a WSB asset, the agency might not defend a secret puller in a murder cover-up. He would reveal her connection to the Dalton research. That night, in the alley behind GH, Jason confronted her. There was no one else around, only antiseptic concrete and his constant stare. "I need answers, Josh. You've been meeting Dalton and training with Jack Brennan. This is not study, it is espionage." Her voice cracked as she tried to explain. "I had no option. Jack covered up Cyrus's death. He suggested that if I wanted to keep clean I would join. This is greater than me." Jason watched her, knowing how much she wanted to do the right thing and how hard she'd worked to combine parenthood and morals. But this? It was risky. He brought up his phone to show the images. "This proof that is real. Walking into JH undercover is filled with deception. People will die if this is revealed." She swallowed. "What do we do?" Jason's jaw stiffened. He couldn't arrest her yet. She was involved in a federal case. Anna would clarify that. However, the central focus is Dalton's experiments. They were testing a covert geophysical chemical known as Project Icarus, which was supposed to have military applications. The WSB viewpoint was simply half of a wider picture. The next day, Jason told Anna everything. She raged, caught between agency policy and familial duty. They concluded that in order to expose Dalton, they would need Joss' help. However, a cautious strategy would be required to shield Joss from both the WSB and the GH's moral board. Meanwhile, Anna called her daughter Emma, who expressed an interest in turning a mole on Dalton, possibly in another clandestine operation. Emma's return to PCU, her interest in Dalton, even rumors she wanted to be his assistant, all seemed too coincidental. So they devised a plan to conduct an official sting. Anna would contact federal lawyers. Jason would protect Joss's hidden identity while conducting surveillance in Dalton's laboratory. And Joss would pretend to lead him deeper into criminal terrain, revealing his true intentions. But if this blew up, if Dalton discovered the trap, there would be consequences. Legal, reputational, and personal. Joss met with Dalton during the lab's quiet hours, this time persuading him to show her his phase 2. In the secrecy, he disclosed a latent gene manipulation vector. Dangerous pharmaceuticals with possible weaponized features, presumably funded through Sidwell's channels. Joss gasped but remained cautious. She discreetly recorded audio and planted the final piece of evidence. Jason prepared warrants while monitoring them remotely. Emma, who was waiting nearby pretending to harvest her lab samples, noticed Joss' unusual behavior, her whispered directions and gloved hands. Emma's notes could reveal everything, but she was divided between wanting to report and being loyal to Anna. Days later, Anna met with a DOJ contact in the GH parking garage to provide the evidence, which included images of Joss, Dalton files, and audio recordings. "It's all illegal." The agent told them that revealing the WSB involvement could jeopardize Joss's safety. Only a comprehensive agency review was possible. The word reached Jack Brennan. He encountered Joss in a secluded aircraft hangar. She wanted to go, but Jack persuaded her to stay, use the sting to bring Dalton down and clean her back channel. Jason told her not to entirely trust Jack because his edge was leverage, not loyalty. Over the weekend, word spread of a DEA raid on Dalton's laboratory. The GH staff was taken aback as sirens screamed. Anna worked with Jason and federal marshals to retrieve Joss before the WSB could interfere. Joss stared carefully from a black SUV, her secret no longer hidden, her devotion divided between family and agency. Inside GH, the reactions were tremendous. Carly felt betrayed. Her daughter was involved in espionage. Anna told her. She chose to do the right thing. However, Carly couldn't accept it all. Emma felt conflicted, resentful but relieved. In the aftermath, Dalton was detained mid-research, with cameras flashing as he was dragged away. Evidence revealed broad environmental experiments disguised as dual-use military goods and fraudulently sponsored. Port Charles was rocked. Anna escorted Joss to a secure facility where federal investigators would determine whether she would be charged or placed under state witness protection. Jason's file ended, but not quietly. He had handed over months of work. He sat at dawn of day chapel, conflictedly looking at images of Joss. She had been an ally, even a friend in the maze of lies. He could not forgive, but he had not abandoned her. The ripple effect spread. WSB removed Joss from subsequent missions. Emma followed her own course with cautious optimism. Carly restored her relationship with calm dinners rather than conflicts. Anna bolstered her resolve. Sometimes doing the right thing means crossing lines. Jason nodded as he watched students leave GH for the summer. Joss re-emerged in civilian clothes at GH's forecourt, but she was quarantined until federal clearance, which took her away from her life. She waved to Jason and Anna, who met her halfway. No words, just understanding. What would happen next? Joss might testify in public, Dalton might face prosecution, and Jack Brennan's WSB techniques would be called into doubt. Are Emma and Joss reconciling? Is Carly slowly regaining trust? Jason turned to Sunny with a slight skepticism. Whoever else had sponsored Dalton, someone greater was still out there. And viewers were left wondering whether Jocelyn was still with WSB or had left. Will they uncover another threat related to Dalton's projects? Will Emma take on hidden roles next? How about Jack Brennan's connection with Carly? Because secrets in Port Charles never stay buried. And once discovered, they never remain silent. The time arrived sooner than planned. During a particularly stressful family meeting at the Quartermain mansion, ostensibly to discuss ELQ restructuring, Tracy waited until the perfect moment. The room was filled with suspicion already. Michael had arrived late, his irritation with Drew still seething from their recent boardroom confrontation. Ned was silently watching everything develop, calculating as always. Brooke Lynn lurked in the corner, feigning curiosity but plainly distracted by her own anxieties. And Nina? She was there under the appearance of supporting Drew, but her presence was clearly upsetting to everyone else. Tracy took a leisurely drink of her tea, then gently laid her cup down and stared straight at Michael. You know, she started, her tone deceptively conversational. I've always said this family thrives on secrets. But there's one secret that's destined to do more than simply rattle a few cages. It's going to burn down the entire courtroom. Everyone froze. Drew's jaw clenched. Nina's smile faded in an instant. Michael blinked, visibly braced for impact. Tracy didn't wait for permission. Drew and Nina are sleeping together, she remarked plainly. Have been for some time. And they've both been lying about it. To you, to Willow, and to the court presiding over the custody case. A terrible quiet followed. Nina's mouth opened but no sound came out. Drew jumped up abruptly, his chair squeaking against the floor. Michael looked like he'd been sucker punched. Tracy, Drew replied, seeking to recover his calm. That's not. Oh, don't insult our intelligence, she cut in harshly. You think I can't spot an affair when I see one? I invented the art of scandal detection, and this little show you two have been putting on is paper thin. Nina finally found her voice. This is a lie. You're doing this to undermine me. Oh please, Tracy snapped. You discredited yourself the minute you started sneaking around with a man who's involved in a custody dispute with your stepdaughter's family. You didn't simply cross a boundary, Nina. You detonated it. Michael stood up suddenly, his eyes tightening on both Drew and Nina. Is it true? He asked, his voice low and deadly. Are you two involved? Neither answered at first. The stillness was all the confirmation he needed. Unbelievable, he said, shaking his head. You lied to the court, to Willow, hell, to everyone. Nina tried to step forward. Michael, please, it's not like that. Really? Because it sure as hell looks like that, he snapped. You're using your connection to Drew to influence the custody situation with Wiley. You're attempting to look like the stable one, the trustworthy one, while manipulating the entire legal system behind the scenes. And Drew? You're meant to be neutral. What happened to integrity? Drew seemed truly stricken. Michael, this wasn't about leverage. I never meant for it to affect the custody case. Well, it does, Tracy responded forcefully. Whether you meant to or not. And you know what else? If the court finds out you two are involved, and you didn't reveal it, There's a high chance the order on Wiley's visitation could be thrown out. Perjury, obstruction, manipulation, you name it. You guys just given Sonny's legal team a golden ticket. The fallout was swift. Brooke Lynn, apparently terrified, departed the room without a word. Ned glanced at his cousin with a mix of hatred and disappointment. Even Olivia, who had been attempting to remain neutral in recent months, turned aside as if she couldn't stomach what she'd just heard. Nina's phone began vibrating in her purse, but she didn't go for it. She couldn't move. Everything Tracy had said was true, maybe not in the spiteful tone she'd used, but in fact there was no rebuttal. She and Drew had crossed lines. Emotional lines. Legal ones. And the ramifications were coming faster than either of them could ready for. Later that day, the ripple effects continued in the Metro Court. Carly, who had heard whispers of the bombshell Tracy had dropped, accosted Drew in a secluded area of the foyer. "So it's true?" she asked, arms crossed, her voice low but full of edge. "You and Nina?" Drew didn't try to dispute it. "Yeah," he answered, "it's true." Carly just stared at him. "You said you were done being manipulated. That you wanted to safeguard your family. And you end up in bed with her?" "I didn't plan for it," Drew remarked, his voice tinged with remorse. "It just happened. We were both coping with the consequences of everything. Sonny, the SEC, the family stuff. You think that excuses it?" Carly snapped. "You're a father, Drew. A leader at ELQ. And you just granted Nina a lifeline she didn't earn. You think she's not going to use this against us now that it's public? She always finds a way to play the victim. And now you've made her believable." By dusk, the entire town was bustling. The discovery wasn't just scandalous, it was hazardous. The judge supervising Wiley's case was known to have zero tolerance for dishonesty. With this unexpected development, Nina's credibility as a potential guardian, or simply a regular visitor, was suddenly in peril. Michael began speaking with his legal team immediately, arguing for a review of the custody order based on undeclared relationships and apparent conflicts of interest. Meanwhile, Willow was caught in the midst of a storm she never asked for. Her faith in Drew had been a fragile but increasing thing, especially after all they'd been through during her illness and the family's implosions. Learning that he had been withholding something so essential from her, and that it concerned her own mother, left her reeling. She didn't lash out, at least not publicly, but her silence in the days that followed said volumes. And when she eventually did speak to Nina, it was with the calm, chilly tone of someone who had met her limit. "You said you wanted to rebuild," Willow remarked quietly, standing in the hospital chapel. "But you started by lying." Again. Nina was visibly shaken. "I didn't mean for it to be like this. I care about Drew, I care about you, but things just became complicated." "They always get complicated with you," Willow answered. "And somehow everyone else ends up paying the price." The legal gears turned fast after that. Tracy had already provided the information to the family's attorneys, who filed an emergency move for review of the custody agreement. The judge, furious but not shocked, called for a hearing within the week. Suddenly, Nina's entire future with her grandson was hanging by a thread, and Drew, once the moral focus of many talks, now found himself facing possible disciplinary action, not just from the court, but from the ELQ board as well. Tracy, for her part, didn't gloat. Not much anyway. She knew she had delivered a bombshell, but she also knew it was important. Her commitment was never to individuals. It was to the legacy of the Quartermain name, to the integrity of the family business, and to preserving the younger generation from the mistakes of the past. If Drew and Nina were to become collateral damage for that to happen, so be it. The week dragged on with hushed conversations, emergency meetings, and damaged relationships. By the time the hearing arrived, the courtroom was filled. Reporters lined the rear wall. Sonny stood toward the front, his arms crossed, his countenance unreadable. Nina, apparently shaken, sat next her attorney. Drew, seated alone, stared down at his notes, refusing to meet anyone's gaze. When the judge addressed the court, her words were cold and direct. "This court does not look kindly on withheld information that may affect the welfare of a child. The romantic relationship between Ms. Reeves and Mr. Kane should have been reported. As such, the visitation agreement will be temporarily suspended pending further review." Gasps rippled through the gallery. Nina's eyes flooded with tears. Willow didn't react. Michael, seated beside her, merely nodded.